Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
All right, so the Rosh Hashanah holiday is right here upon us, and we are supposed to be doing an evaluation of our life, trying to be reborn. Just as we have a new year, we want to recreate ourselves into even better people, because life is a process of perfection. We will never be perfect, but we are always trying to perfect ourselves. And we want to achieve our goals. And a lot of us don't know really how to do it. We get stuck in many places in our lives. So we're going to be having on today on the show a counselor, a life coach type of counselor who is, and they're a doctor. They have a doctorate, and they're going to be helping us work our lives backwards to achieve our goals. So let's say, we're 90 years old and we want to look back at our lives and we want to see what we have accomplished. We want to say, oh, I remember I did this and I did that, things that today we're only hoping to do. We want to imagine ourselves having done it already. So we're going to have an exercise today, which is going to help us work our life backwards in order to achieve our goals. And this Rosh Hashanah holiday, we are going to be trying to make those changes that we really want to make. And I'm excited to do that. Now, just a little bit of news before we start the show. Lockdown has been placed on Israel, a second major full lockdown for the next 3 weeks, starting on Friday, right before the holiday at 2 p.m. You can go out to the store to buy food. You can go out for medical care, etc. However, otherwise, more or less, exceptions here and there, you're supposed to be home, not traveling around, not doing what we usually do because of the coronavirus. And Israelis are very upset about it. And I understand. I understand. All right. Anyway, we'll be right back, everybody. Don't go anywhere.
Always challenging the status quo. Hello, I'm Rod Bryant on Beyond the Matrix here at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. I want to encourage you to listen each week, every Wednesday at the same time, for an amazing show that will challenge you, inform you, and inspire. News, views, and wisdom for the nations here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com. Don't forget, Beyond the Matrix every week, Wednesday, here on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
The high holidays are here. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot, Simchat Torah. These are all this is the high holiday season. And at this time of the new year, the Jewish New Year here, we want to examine ourselves and work on ourselves in order to be the best people that we can be, to be the best Tamar we can be, to be the best Susan we can be, to be the best David we can be, etc., etc. And a lot of us, we have goals and we want to achieve them, but for some reason we get stuck, whether it's fear, whether it's lack of confidence, whether it is some other reason that is holding us back. And there's an exercise that one can do in order to help ourselves overcome these obstacles that are in our way in order to achieve those goals and be who we really want to be. I've always wondered when I'm 90 years old, I should live that long, ad mea stream, as they say, until 120. And I look back upon my life, will I have achieved the goals that I wanted to, or will I be full of regret, etc.? So to join us now on the show, we have with us Dr. Ozzy Jankovic. She's an educator and facilitator of personal transformations. She leads coaching groups and one-on-one sessions to empower people to let go of fears and limitations and step into their true power, she says, and forge their path in life. She also has a podcast on her website at drozzi.co, and that's spelled D-R-A-Z-I, Dr. Ozzy, or what we say in Hebrew, Ozzy, drozzi.co. So welcome to the show, Dr. Ozzy.
Good morning, Tamar. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, I'm happy that you're here too, and I'm very excited because I have been for years wanting to do an interview like this, and I couldn't remember if there's a name to this type of therapy or this type of exercise or whatever it is. And then someone on our WhatsApp list of the community said that you're going to be speaking that night exactly about this, and I said, whoa, I want to come. So I quickly signed up, and I was in there. And then during the session, I lost internet and I missed out on a good chunk of it. So I'm really looking forward to it. So tell us about this type of exercise that we're going to be doing.
So this exercise has different names. It really has been a cornerstone of personal development across cultures and across time. So it can be referred to as a wise guide, a wiser self, a future self, or even a higher or highest self exercise. And I think there's also a Jewish component to this about tuning into inner wisdom, which the Kabbalah says comes through our heart when we are in silence. So the future self or the wiser self exercise is here for us when we need advice, when we need, Tamar, we go to so many people for advice. We learn in Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers, that we need to make ourselves a teacher and learn from all. And I really believe in the power of asking questions and lifelong learning, giving advice, sharing advice. But there are moments in our lives where the answer lies within. And I think that right now is a particularly powerful time for this kind of work because we are on the brink of a brand new, fresh year. Yesterday, I sat down with one of my groups to do a similar exercise like this, and I had prepared some slides. And interestingly, the slide show wasn't working. The technology on Canva, which is a phenomenal app, wasn't working. And I just saw a blank screen. And I paused. And I said to the group, you know what? I think this is happening for us. This is happening for a reason. And it's here to show us that this year ahead is a blank slate. And I think it's easy to forget that. I think it's easy to doubt ourselves. I think it's easy to believe that every day and every year is just going to be a repetition of our old patterns. But we learn that it's not, and that our bodies are constantly regenerating, and that our brains are capable of growing and changing, and our lives can reflect that. So this is really an exercise that you can use to get wisdom or advice anytime you need it, and it's definitely a tool that can be utilized when you're looking into the future and when you are consciously creating that vision that you want to see in your life and that you want to see in the world.
So if a person is looking for, everybody wants to be quote unquote happy, but what exactly is happiness and how do they attain that?
I love this question so much because I really believe that many of us have been sold a bill of goods when it comes to talking about happiness. And what we're understanding from the latest research on emotion is that a truly joyful life is a life in which all emotions are experienced and expressed. I think that as young children, especially in the Western world, we've been taught to suppress emotions. We've been taught to fear our sadness. We've been taught that fear is not an acceptable emotion, or don't get overly excited about anything. Don't have high expectations. Don't be too expressive. And the truth is that our emotions are here giving us the natural wisdom that is within the body. And so through experiencing that range of emotions, we can move through those emotions, we can process those emotions, and we can live a much more emotionally free and expressed life. So I think that Judaism has always had this wisdom, has always known this, and we see this in the life cycle events such as at a wedding, at the most joyful and beautiful time when the bride and groom are married, they break a glass to remind them and to remind everyone present that we still have work to do. We are here to repair this world. And there's something incredibly multifaceted about that by way of the emotions that can be involved in that type of work, because we mourn for the loss of the temple, and yet we have a tremendous amount of hope at the same time. So another example where the processing of emotions is present in Judaism is after a death, the natural Shiva process and the mourning process that someone goes through when they lose a loved one. It is natural and it is healthy to grieve and to mourn and to process those powerful emotions. And that, too, is a part of a joyful life.
Dr. Ozzie, one of our listeners in the chat room is asking, is there a difference between happiness and joy or pleasure?
I think so. I think just like the way that the Eskimos had so many words for ice, we as Jews have so many words for happiness and for joy. And we see in the Hebrew language different words for, gila and rina, and in terms of pleasure is a different word than the others. There's really an array of emotions and experiences, and I think that the ultimate joy can come when we roll out the red carpet for whatever we're experiencing in this moment and allow ourselves to be present with the message that emotion is bringing us.
And, we have to also define the difference between pleasure and happiness, because it could be pleasurable to overeat and be a glutton, but that doesn't make us have a happy life. Actually, people who are, morbidly obese usually are not happy. And or if you take drugs, it's because you want that instant pleasure, but afterwards you're not happy. So we have to make that distinction, don't we?
Yeah, I think that this is definitely a situation where we're making a choice as to what is going to bring the greatest amount of light into the world. What's going to bring the greatest amount of good into the world? And sometimes it might be enjoying that pleasure, that special celebration, or the piece of birthday cake at the celebration. And other times it's thinking about the bigger picture. It's really always having the bigger picture in mind, Tamar. And, there's so many different levels of pleasure. You can think about it in terms of even saving or investing money. Imagine a child gets her allowance, and more than anything else, what does she want to do with that? She wants to walk to the local shop and buy a lollipop and spend her allowance there. Is that going to bring her the greatest amount of pleasure? Well, maybe. Or maybe it would be saving. And I think that for me at least, an exercise like the Wise Guide gives perspective on what it is for you. Because, just like your fingerprint is uniquely yours, your life is uniquely yours. And we can accept the ideas and the judgment calls and the perspectives of other people. But at the end of the day, we know ourselves and we know what we need better than anyone else in that critical moment of making a decision of what is going to be the most pleasurable experience for this world, what is going to bring the most light.
Okay,
and
hold it right there.
Pleasure.
So sorry, we have to take a break. The music is on. We're going to be right back, everybody, and we're going to actually do this exercise. We'll be right back.
Shalom, everybody. Making a difference often takes just one moment and one person at a time. I am Orly Benny Davis, your show host on Israel News Talk Radios from Jerusalem with Love. You'll be hearing people talking about politics, religion, social issues, and making a better tomorrow. Join me, Orly Benny Davis, for God and Country. From Jerusalem with Love.
Wednesdays on Israel News Talk Radio.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
Modesty at the beach? It isn't just about body image. It's about feeling good. Modest swimsuits, so we don't get burned by the sun.
So we won't get ogled by strangers.
So we'll feel free to express ourselves without the need to expose ourselves.
Let Marcy Modest help you to cover up what you want, how you want.
Made in Israel.
Visit marcymodest.com. That's MARSEA modest.com.
And get a 10% discount on your first purchase.
All right, we are back here at the Tamar Yonah Show on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and we're talking about working your life backwards to achieve your goals. And our guest is Dr. Ozzy Jankovic. She's an educator, and she has a podcast on her website at drozzy.co, and Ozzy is spelled A-Z-I. You can go there after the show if you like and look her up. And she's going to be taking us through an exercise in order to help ourselves perfecting ourselves as we are experiencing the high holiday season now. So do you want to share with us the exercise first or some success stories first? What do you want to do?
You know, there are, good question. I want to dig in a little bit to what you said about, this idea of perfecting ourselves. And I do believe we're here in this world to repair the world. And I believe that our greatest ability to grow will come when we accept ourselves as we are right now. And I think that tomorrow is going to be what helps us to be present in this moment. I think that we can spend a lot of time trying to change ourselves, trying to change our lives, trying to be different or trying to be better. And ultimately, if we can make peace with what is right now, we're going to have access to much greater levels of awareness and consciousness with which to live. So I see a lot of success stories with this particular exercise. And I think that one thing that stands out for me across all the success stories is the way that this exercise has the ability to change an inner dialogue. So what do I mean by inner dialogue? You have 60 or 70,000 thoughts swirling around your head every single day. And the majority of those thoughts, as they've been studied in recent research, are negative. There's a metaphor that we are like Velcro for negative thoughts, and we are like Teflon for positive thoughts. And yet, we can train the mind to be the opposite way. Obviously, it's really important to scan the world and for threats and ensure our safety and the safety of our loved ones in this world. And at the same time, this way of thinking is known really as survival mode. And I meet a lot of people who worry a tremendous amount. And, they're not anomalies. The rate of anxiety has spiraled gone up as much as 75% since this past spring. And even before that, more recent research has shown that, 60% of college students experience a serious level of anxiety. So a lot of the anxiety that is experienced comes from our self-judgment. Worrying about the past, worrying about the future, and being so hard on ourselves that we cannot even function in the present. So the beauty of this exercise really is in getting quiet. And getting quiet is not something that's easy to do. A study actually from this year showed that 60% of women would rather administer themselves a slight electric shock than be alone with their thoughts. So I'm not going to say that this is easy. However, it's really helpful in bringing out the gentleness within. There's a lot of compassion that each and every human being is naturally endowed with. And when we can get past the judgment and we can realize that being overly critical of ourselves and overly judgmental of ourselves, it's not helping us grow. It's not helping us give or flourish or be creative. In fact, it's stifling all of those abilities. So the success stories are those of my students and those people who have participated in this exercise who are then able to soften and let go. And there's some incredible stories. One of the people that I learned from, his name is Dr. James S. Gordon, and he's a world-renowned psychiatrist who has used exercises such as these in post-war communities. He's been in Israel, he's been in Gaza, he's been in Bosnia, he's been around the world. And using this very simple exercise has helped people to transform out of a place of trauma and suffering and anger and even abuse, people who are really stuck in a cycle, a really serious cycle, and then they break free and soften and enter this compassionate place. So, that's an extreme example. And yet all of us are carrying around baggage from the past that we can let go of and we can break free of.
So share with us a success story if you can. We only have another 5 minutes to this segment.
You got it. I have a woman I know, an incredibly talented, bright, a creative woman. She's an author. And she was feeling stuck in her work, and she was feeling stuck in terms of finishing a book. And when she and I worked together, I found out that there were a lot of really critical thoughts coming up. And, she even explained to me that these thoughts sounded to her like, some kind of dictator, and that she had to, do everything perfect. And she was really, really stuck in her work and in her life. And we did this exercise. And I watched really immediately as some of the weight lifted from her. And she was within a pretty short amount of time, a matter of days, able to take steps forward in her work and access new levels of creativity and calm and imagination and peace. So that's her story. And it's a story that I see quite often.
Did she finish her book?
She sure did.
Okay. All right. Another story. We love hearing success stories. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I recently worked with a woman who was feeling a little bit stuck by the feedback she was getting at work from the heads of her company. She works in a large company. And she wasn't really feeling confident about her work. She wasn't feeling good because she wasn't really reaching their metric of success. And through the work that we did and through her connecting with her future self and her wise guide, she was able to understand that she was accomplishing a lot in her work in the office that was going without notice. It wasn't being noticed by her supervisors. And so in doing this work, she was able to grow in her awareness, to notice what was happening, and to actually share with the supervisors all of the other things and in all of the other ways that she was making progress and really helping the company in their service. And she received accolades for that. So that was another really beautiful outcome of this practice.
And one more. We have another 2.5 minutes.
Well, I'll tell you mine. I absolutely love this practice. When I first discovered it a few years ago, it helped me to realize what it was that I wanted to share with the world. And I had created a company, a really neat website. It's called Sage Pair, and it's a platform for coaches and consultants. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do next with it. And I discovered this meditation, and I got a lot of clarity about what it was that I needed to do at that point. And at that point, it was to put this project on hold, to work on my book, to work on my coaching and my teaching, and to keep that other project on the side so that I could come back to it later at the right moment. It was really incredibly helpful for me.
And so I think one of the biggest things that holds a lot of us back from doing things is fear of rejection. They may not like me. They may laugh at me. What will my family think if I fail, etc.
Absolutely.
What would you say?
Absolutely. We learn in evolutionary psychology that one of the greatest fears that a human being has is that of being left alone. And when you look at this in terms of like a primitive society, it makes a lot of sense why someone wouldn't want to be left out of the group, because they would not live. Their survival boils down to their ability to engage with the community, be a part of the community, give and receive from the community. So I think that survival is, like, on a very primitive level, the fear that we have by way of being left out or being rejected. And yet we have an incredibly powerful desire to serve in this world. Talking about happiness again, a lot of the happiness research points to this idea that, Dr. Viktor Frankl was famous for sharing after his tragic experience in the Holocaust, that we are here because each and every single one of us have a unique purpose. And we are here to serve the world. You are here to serve the world in your perfectly unique way, and there's room for you. And so having been left out at prior points in your life may have traumatized you. Maybe it's a trauma with a lowercase t, but traumatized you and brought fear upon you, whether you knew it or whether this was subconscious, to share and to be who you are, to be slightly unique, slightly different, because, like you said, nobody wants to be rejected. It's a really, really painful feeling. So a lot of the work that I do with my clients and the work that I've done myself has to do with looking at those fears and then also looking at purpose and your unique why.
Okay, I have to stop you there because we're going to the end of the break now. But when we get back, we're going to be actually doing this exercise, and I'm very excited. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is Shai Ben-Tekoa, and each week I'll be webcasting to you from Judea, origin of the word Jew, a people besieged and beleaguered in every generation. Nazi Germany's but a memory, but in its place the world invented the phantom Palestinians as this generation's internationally authorized Jew killers. Tune in for a different slant on life in Israel, Phantom Nation, every Monday.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom, I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Working your life backwards to achieve your goals. Our guest, Dr. Ozzy Jankovic, is now going to be giving us the exercise. I will just preface this with, this is usually at least an hour session. We're going to try to do this in a microwave 8-minute time. So go ahead, take the reins, Dr. Ozzy.
Thank you so much, Tamar. There are different versions of this exercise, but I do think that it's incredibly effective to do the short one. So we're going to do it together. If you're driving, you're not going to want to close your eyes. But if you are in a place where you can, then you can follow along, and we're going to do this. So you're going to find a comfortable place, a comfortable posture, and close your eyes, coming into stillness. And if you notice any thoughts, you can notice them, and you can simply come back to the sensation of your breath. You're going to take a few long and deep breaths. You can put a hand on your belly and allow your belly to be soft. And see if with each out breath you can let go of any tension, anything you're holding on to, any stress. You can take a scan of your current life and let your attention go to anywhere that you might feel stuck, or anything in your life that you're interested in changing. Now, together, we're going to gaze into the future, and depending on how old you are, it can be really far into the future, or perhaps it can be 10 years from now or 20 years from now. And visualize yourself, your future self, at home. Where in this home do you see yourself? Are you inside, outside, in a certain room? Notice your environment. Anything sentimental about it? How does your future self look? Your facial expression, your energy, and the look in your eyes. Sense a kindness, sense a care, and sense a welcome. Take a moment here and now to get clear on where you feel most stuck, where you need the most help moving forward. And share this situation with your future self. Staying connected to your breath and your soft belly. Share with your future self and imagine that he or she is offering healing attention and care to you right now. You might feel like you're receiving kindness, an embrace, a message of guidance or reassurance. See how fully you can listen. You'll know that this is the care and compassion of your future self when it speaks kindly to you. Letting go of the thoughts and returning to that breath, simply tune in and allow yourself to be held in this loving presence. What advice are you receiving? What does it feel like to be in this embrace? To be fully understood and at one with your future self. You can spend a moment here and sense this love and this wisdom. You can thank your future self for the experience and for the guidance. And you can say Lahidrot until next time, because He or she is always there, always accessible to you, and truly lives within you always. You can thank your future self, and you can say thank you for the experience, and you can bring that love, that guidance, and that advice back with you into your heart and into this moment. Thank you so much for participating with me.
All right. And so this is the end of the exercise. I just want to know if I should ask questions or not.
That was the microwave version.
Okay. Can you give an example if, let's say, somebody has a goal of, let's say they, in their life, I'm just going to pull some things out of the air. They want to change their career, or they want to improve a relationship with a family member that they've not gotten along with, or let's say their children or their parents, either way you want to put it. They want to, well, maybe, I don't know. I'm trying to think what is most common to most people, their jobs, their occupation. They want to change things.
I think all of these are really, really crucial. And, when it comes to an issue with a relationship or say seeking forgiveness, I think what could happen in this future self exercise is that you can bring a question to your future self and ask, why is it hard for me to forgive this person? And then listen. Because, Tamar, when we get quiet and when those fearful and anxious thoughts stop, they don't necessarily stop swirling, but we're paying attention to the deeper, the breath, the essence of who we are. We're getting closer to the message of our soul, which is really what this wise self-exercise is. We are letting go of ego. We're letting go of our need to be right, our need to be important. And we're tuning in to what's actually important, which is forgiveness, and which is tshuva, which we use the word tshuva for the process that we go through in this new year, which is it's not repentance. That's not an accurate translation. It's return. We are letting go of all those outer trappings of fear and anxiousness and ego, and we're tuning in. We're returning home to who we really are inside. And that's the place where forgiveness lives.
You had talked before about abuse. I know there are people in this world who have gone through child abuse or some type of trauma or PTSD. Where would this fit in there?
So, Dr. Gordon is a psychiatrist. I myself am an educator. I'm not a medical doctor. So I don't address acute trauma. I can work in conjunction with therapists and people who do. But this is an exercise that can be done on your own. I would say that if anything is coming up for you that feels too much, you feel overly emotional, it's getting in the way of your ability to function, or if you're having memories of something that's happened in your life that, are really getting in the way of your daily living, it's so important to reach out to a qualified professional, a certified psychotherapist, and connect there to do this type of work as well.
And with the last 2 minutes that we have, what would you like to leave us with?
You are so powerful and you are so special, and you have the capacity to co-create a beautiful, beautiful vision. On Rosh Hashanah, we pray for all of us, kulanu. Last week it said in the Parsha, kulachem, all of you. Together, everyone was addressed. And then one by one, different types of people were addressed. Because it's in your work as an individual. It's in really getting in touch with your unique inner wisdom and your unique role and the thing that only you can do, that we come together as a collective, as spokes on one wheel to move this collective and move this world forward toward peace. And so you, no matter what it is that you do every day, you play a crucial role, and you can meet yourself with kindness wherever you are. Meet yourself with kindness and notice all of the kind acts, however seemingly small that they are, that you do every single day, even when nobody's watching.
And a word very briefly on changing our inner dialogue to something more positive.
Oh, absolutely. So as soon as we can notice what the inner dialogue is, we can get it out on paper and we can look at it. And then we can look for alternatives. We can also ask ourselves, if a friend of mine came to me and said all of these things about herself, how would I respond to her? Oftentimes it's in that response that we find the most compassionate side of ourselves, which is actually going to help us move forward and be who it is that we most want to be in this world.
Well, how about if we imagine that they were saying it to us, like instead of us saying to ourselves, I'm so old, I'm so lazy, I'm so this, if a friend told us, you're so old, you're so lazy, you would say, no, I'm not. I get this done every day. I get that done every day.
That's exactly it. Absolutely. It's actually something I do in coaching is help people really, voice those ideas and those opinions. And rather than letting ourselves listen to the subconscious, it really is bringing those subconscious thoughts into consciousness, getting clear on what they are, and understanding that there is a much bigger picture available for you.
All right. So we have to realize, number one, that the future is a blank slate. We don't have to be stuck in a rut of the same dialogue we've always been in, etc. Right. And we can change our inner dialogue. And I think that's really good. We should write down what our inner dialogue is and then read it back to us as if someone is saying that about us, and then come back and rebuttal. And that will really, maybe crack the glass ceiling that we keep ourselves under. Thank you so much, Dr. Ozzy Jankovic. And again, you can visit her website at drozzy.co, and you can listen to her podcast called Within Us. And she's an amazing, amazing person. If you want to work with her, you can. Again, her website, drozzy.co. We will link to that on the page where the show is podcasted. Again, thank you for being with us, and Shana Tova, Dr. Ozzy.
What a pleasure, Tamar. Thank you for having me. This was absolutely wonderful. And Shana Tova Mituka to you and to all of your listeners.
Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. Just click the orange button at the top of the IsraelNewsTalkRadio.home page, log in as yourself or an anonymous guest, and join in on the fun. You'll meet other listeners from all over the world who listen to Israel News Talk Radio, and you can make new friends. Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. It's the closest you can get to being in the studio with us.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.